we can look at the decision of Parliament for votes in favor of the removal of the Auditor General, former Auditor General, I beg your pardon, Lara Taylor-Pierce, and in Deputy Winatamba Momo from that position as the Auditor General of the Republic of Sierra Leone. This will happen last Friday on the 20th of December. We are in the Parliament, about 136 members of Parliament, 100 of which will vote say yes, they want for, agree with the Tribunal report, where the President been direct to Parliament for letting watch to look at and then vote. Then been vote 100 of them, members of Parliament, inclusive of PCMPs, Parliamentary members of Parliament, who been there at Parliament that day, been vote say yes indeed, waiting the former Auditor General and in Deputy do. Now one way them consider say now breach of professional conduct, because that's the catch. They say breach of professional conduct. And 36 of the MPs then they in Parliament been say no, they're not saying a breach of professional conduct. But the question is, what does this mean for Sierra Leone? This particular precedent, because it's the first time we're having a situation where the Auditor General and in Deputy, and they kick them off office as a result of waiting and time as breach of professional conduct. This may happen when questions been come around the President in office. Of course, it all starts with when African Press Review, Africanist Press, been leak out one document, we been just deal out the Auditor General in reports been there. We point fingers at the President in office, Office of President, say them been there in one dubious act, wherein fake receipts will come up within the office. But the question always we can ask people now this: when they say Office of President, is it the President or authorities within the Office of President? There is a lot to talk about this particular issue, and that's more the reason why we bring out the studios people will matter for talk on the issues. And today inside the Hot Seats program, I get Melvin Tijan Mansare, who is a parliamentary correspondent, is a media analyst, political and social commentator. He then at the studio for joining me talk on this all-important issue. Melvin, it's a pleasure having you this evening. Good evening, Melvin.
Thank you very much. Merry Christmas and a prosperous 2025.
And similarly, so we get the voice of a civil rights activist, Solomon Sondu, who himself now one to follow issues across Sierra Leone. Solomon, as always, it's a pleasure having you. Good evening and welcome to the Hot Seats program.
Yes, I want to tell you plenty thank you, and let me use this opportunity for say Merry Christmas and a prosperous 2025. Thank you for getting me on this Christmas day.
The question is this a good precedence for Sierra Leone? The removal of the Auditor General in Deputy. I'll start off with you, Melvin. You've been in a Parliament on a particular day when Parliament sets this precedence. What do you mean for Sierra Leone? Is this a good one, seeing the removal of this kind of personality in that office day?
Well, it will depend on who side somebody they come off from. If you are coming from pro-government ideology or orientation, you will say yes, for the fact that the allegation against the outgone Auditor General was that she was not professional enough and a deputy. If you are coming from a pro-left-wing or opposition standpoint, you will say no, it's a very wrong precedent for the fact that the bone of contention they know that they go seek third-party clarification among several other things where many people believe say embarrass the presidency, as you earlier mentioned, and the difference between the president and the presidency. The president is one person, the presidency is persons supervised by the president. So there's a thin line there. From a centrist or liberal perspective, I think looking at opinions initially expressed from the left and the right, I will say this: posterity, now I'm for judge this one. We all been there where the previous government will remove the vice president. Some people were in support, others were against. By the end of the day, it was like a snowball. The end being able to justify the means. And in this case, I think it will only be the end to justify the means, because there are several indicators to say it's wrong. There are several other indicators also to say it was right. But for me, I think what it mean generally for accountability and transparency, what it mean for the body politics, what it mean for governance, what it mean for the judiciary, what it mean for the executive, and above all, what it mean for the legislature and the elected or the voting public for me, and then consequences, then they are go out for try for dissect.
Okay, Solomon. Now, what in this precedence mean for the country? Is it a good precedence, seeing the removal of the former Auditor General and in deputy? Because the question here is, that's the result of professional misconduct. What in constitutes misconduct? We can't try to understand about this program.
Well, I would say we all don't follow the proceedings, and we don't on these Auditor General's issues, since they set up the Tribunal, and when the Tribunal they go on. Maybe you don't sit down on our sister programs, Good Morning, Leone, with colleagues for, the tell way the Tribunal and report come out when the thing starts. The topic are like Parliament case removal of former Auditor General and deputy. Is this a good precedent? The question you ask on the topic of itself. Well, it look like if you ask this question, is this a good precedent? I make one start from the setting up of the Tribunal.
But as you take me to the setting up of the Tribunal, many people be on the raise eyebrows as to even the setting up of a Tribunal, because they say it's one that was shrouded with secrecy.
I'll come to that, but let's use, because the question, is this a good precedent? So the precedent here.
So answer that question. Is it a good precedent?
So the good precedent, my colleague mentioned the removal of the former Vice President under the then administration. Let me take procedural issue now in this context. Then we can now into the nitty-gritty of what constitutes, professionalism in this, right? So for me, we don't start say the Tribunal in set one, the President use the Constitution in the right way for set up the Tribunal. We all agree on that. They don't go, then set up the Tribunal, report don't come out, how the reports come, it be there in secrecy, we can't discuss that one day, and we all appeal, say, the conscience of Parliament may then do the final scrutiny for make sure, say, if waiting, the executive don't look at with the Tribunal in report, we don't go to Parliament, may they use, the parliamentary representation, where they look at, with democratic credentials, may so don't choose a part of democracy, and they go with, transparency, accountability, and respect for the rule of law in this case. So what would they say now? The Auditor General in removal, it constitutes transparency, it constitutes accountability, because she is there at that time to probe into ministries, departments, and agencies. You mentioned the presidency,
and for which Latin they do diligently over time.
So
this Latin they do diligently. You agree with that?
So that
you agree with that?
Yes, that is the point, and that's why I say that office it is for probe into the mishap into ministries, departments, and agencies. In this case, it faced the presidency. For me, John Lequitsin, me colleagues say the presidency is the entire. You get the chief minister there, you get the chief protocol there, you get the secretary to the president, you get those who are in charge of doing so many things. So for me, let's use this opportunity to say here is the precedent being set. Now we look at the two. The president used, now we talk about section 119 in this case now, you go down to the relevant at the council, parliament, the parliament, the end part of them will be still say the foreseedom, then look into the removal recommendations being set. Out of how many parliamentarians we get? Now 136 be represented.
Out of 149 parliamentarians.
Now we get 136. So the absence of the others and those who were in, they said yes, the misconduct of the Auditor General, yes, it didn't place so then for removal. So the question here is, are we now questioning the remover, the parliamentarians, what they did or what the president did? That's, I think, what we are discussing here as if now a good precedent. So let's look at the law.
So I ask you again, do you think it's a good precedent? Because what you mentioned at that, procedurally, the president and parliament don't follow procedure. That was what he said. Is that not so?
That's it.
You want conclusive.
You want conclusive. That's it.
You want conclusive.
I'm not conclusive.
You want conclusive. They follow procedure.
Let's agree that they follow procedure.
Melvin, Solomon dropped something we mentioned, say, as you rightly cite former President Samuel Sam Sumana in case the President Biden and Eskomba been kicked him off office. Solomon they say in this case, President Bill follow procedure until arrive at that point where we don't see the removal of the Auditor General, former Lara Tilopias, and in Deputy Natamba Momo. You feel still on the case?
Well, you question, not to state Jacket's question. All right. Firstly, if it's about following the dictates of procedure, yes, President Marrah Bio do. But in pursuant to following procedure, unorthodox and subterranean means were employed. What do I mean? Unorthodox, you can discuss removal of Auditor General, you know, put on the business paper, na the other paper. That is unorthodox, unparliamentary, and subterranean. Because by right, now the business committee will decide whose item of order the day na the paper. So that's, though a procedural for the parliament can go do all the things and do, but that was what I would call butchering of best practice. Can I learn? We are having a conversation. We are not debating.
Of course,
if you want to open a debate, we can open a debate. No, we are having a conversation.
Solomon,
allow me and you have your time.
Allow Melvin for that. Again, Melvin, just as you mentioned,
he seems to be offended with the word unorthodox and subterranean.
Solomon,
when the leader of government said
can you allow me to learn?
I'm dealing with procedure because we are very. Let's be careful with the words procedure. As he mentioned, the removal of the former vice president. That's a clash of fame.
Right. I'm in a Christmas mood. Don't push me. Yes.
I'm glad you mentioned that. Proceedings in Parliament. The removal of the Samuel Tonisoya.
Of course.
And listen keenly from the majority leader in Parliament, Honorable Martin Yuma, where they say, no, they not ambush the main opposition APC. They say they inform APC a day before they table that one day, that item day, now Parliament. Of course, just as you mentioned, and not be done at the other paper, because that's the argument of the APC. And they say the way they inform themselves, now the nets, around 7 going to 8 na nets.
I will come to the lame duck excuses of the APC shortly. Let's expose the SLPP quick. I may bother no once, but I'm done with and I will come to APC. I use the SLPP government use subterranean and unorthodox means that qualify. Now, Samuel, me and you cover Parliament from the late Honorable PC Toto. May his soul rest in peace. You're a good friend, Samuel. Now, it has been practiced in Parliament that 2/3 are deducted or computed by the total number of members of Parliament. Yeah. But in this case, because the SLPP bench knew that APC were not having the numbers, so now they employ and invoke what I will call the silver bullet, section 91(1), which talks about the general procedure. And if you read that section, look at the opening sentences of that, except otherwise.
Thank you.
Which means it's subterranean, because the otherwise, if you put it in tandem with 137, is it 137?
137.7.
137.7. Go to 137.
A and B.
The B part. 137B. It's saying 2/3 of members of Parliament. Now, the Speaker, in his grammarian ideology, used what I would call linguistical interpretation. Of course, I'm not a lawyer. He is a lawyer. But I think his interpretation should have been a subject for the Supreme Court. Because if you're saying except otherwise is an exemption clause. In this case, there is already an exempt in 137.7 that says the removal of a judge should be warranted by the votes of 2/3 of members of. Let's understand these prepositions of Parliament. And in 91(1) it says those that are present and voted. So how do you harmonize these two different presentation as to how to go about that. And I think that was not in the domain of the Speaker. That should have been in the domain of the Chief Justice to interpret that's what I would call constitutional ambiguity. So that is what I meant when I said the SLPP used unorthodox and subterranean means. Now let me come to the APC. Their argument that, oh, they were informed late cannot hold water. Because I will tell you, when it was around the business of the welfare bill, though it was late, everybody was there to show solidarity.
Thank you.
In this case, who is to be blamed if the APC had 7 of its members absent? Was it the fault of, can you blame the SLPP for APC to be conducting their seminar in Gambia? Can you blame the SLPP for some APC MPs that I know
but one
who went to China to go and buy market?
One go say indeed not to the SLP the responsibility, but APC the all one meeting at the Gambia. Of course. But this one will be in a public domain saying indeed this was happening. And as such, you get senior members within the APC that I must say them what they that thing there. So let me say they say equity is the reign.
Yes.
You think it be even possible for let them just grab our money and say one even 10-7 and say no, this thing that happened to man at parliament. This is like one that touches on
when this based on precedents and practice and experience, let's fumble in this. I don't see APC parliament, I don't see SLPP parliament. Parliament, the most fearful term, if you're not MP or you're not party picking, whether not party secretariat, we all portfolio. They tell MP therefore be careful. Where parliament in life one done. Then candidate 12 o'clock. Yes. Where parliament one for go holiday. Where parliament one for go recess. So the APC themselves should be blamed for not being sensitive to the time. The Bible says be sensitive to the time. The APC we are not sensitive to the time.
My point, sir, that is the point. That is the point. Out of the 149 parliamentarians, let's say this discussion, we don't get this discussion pleading to their conscience for them to be there. Let's say without having this true thought. But for reasons, if all of them were present, I think the issue of procedural and the parliamentary the parliament doing their work, that should be the discussion. So for me, it depends, just like what Belvin said, the way the two eyes or the lens you look at it as to whether it's a bad precedent or is a good precedent. The precedents have been set, they follow procedural, that's in tangent with the laws. So it's not for me. That's the point.
Right. I'll listen within Royal Society published quite recently. Me and you know say, so we send Marrah, we lead that society now one way, over time, don't stick in neck for issues looking for doing the constitution.
Yes.
I listen, I watched doing right up, you see. The statement described these actions as troubling disregard for the constitutional importance of decision and suggested that they may have been deliberate attempts to bypass due process. Citing sections 1199 and 1377 of Sierra's Constitution, the Law Society emphasized that the removal of the Auditor General requires a 2/3 majority of the total membership of Parliament. I think this is not the argument of so many people. The total membership, is it the membership of, particularly the one that have been dated that they went at 136 or 149? Of course, the other day, during one conversation, I informed colleagues say, the courts now then get the right for interpreting waiting at the Constitution. Exactly. Supreme Courts, because they are the highest court of the land.
Oh, yes.
And when they interpret the Constitution, then they use threefold. Then get the literal meaning of the Constitution, the ordinary word ID. Yes. Then get the golden word to bring in, and the mischief rule. Now these are the rules in this. So is it that, like how they say the speaker use some linguistic or grammar, use some grammars to interpreting in or off or whatsoever?
It's like we are shall, must, the law.
So again, is it that the speaker any wisdom now then 3 lines of use for interpret the totality of number of
that's why I'm calling for the review of this constitution. We need review.
I can use
we
for
need
the
our new
ambience,
constitution to be set.
Is the mischief. It was mischievous ruling for the fact that he knew the opposition never had the numbers, and you can only beat them when you apply 91-1.
Yes.
That was a mischievous interpretation. But now to my good friend, this is the man that I have great respect for, Soisenge Marrah. I was here when he challenged the government of Sierra Leone on the ban on vehicles.
Yes.
I have seen him, and for me, I think the next man they are in the long run will need for be Chief Justice. But I want to avert in mind to something we omitted in that statement. And first, La Bega, Mr. Marrah Esq and also in a possible litigious, with the hope that the Law Society, unlike the Bar Association, will take this to the Supreme Court for some interpretation. That is one. Two, you omitted a specific provision in the Constitution, which is Section 91, subsection 1. And if you look at the side note of 91, it talks about voting in Parliament. That is the umbrella of voting. So if you are coming to tell me that your juxtaposition is between 1199 and 137.7, then you've left out a secondary element. And Achai Kokoki always say, laws should not be read in isolation. They should be read in tandem. So, Mr. Marrah, with all due respect, put 1199, 1377 in tandem with 91.1 and come back to me and tell me whether that ruling was, like you said, what is the adjective that he used? Is not bypass. Bypass. Well, slightly I will agree with you, bypass, but in reality of the word, there was no bypass. It was what I would call an overuse of what is there.
So there comes the catch in the Constitution, right? If Marrah is saying one and the other, on the other hand, the Constitution is saying another thing. Let's talk about those who constituted this 136. If they were against this bill, let's put it this way, if they were against this motion to remove the former Auditor General, they could have voted the same. It's just that the ruling party has the edge. So for me, I want to look, I don't want to use the political lens.
Before the removal of the former Auditor General and Deputy, we see the Clerk of Parliament read a letter. We say this letter comes directly from the President. Where they direct them say, let them not forget. We put them to them, say, let them not forget the recommendation and sent to them, and for act on that recommendation. These are just paraphrase, but I believe are not other than reduced.
You see, this.
So what does this mean for the independence of institutions in country?
You see, what we need to do, as we don't already digest on the procedural issue, that yes, they go through, but the point here is we are talking about transparency, accountability for our democracy to be old, right? In this sense, institutions need to be accountable. Those who are doing their job, for example, the parliamentary oversight, who are in charge of auditing, this is the time now for us to find what is recommendable. The presidency is the highest office of the land. Let's see where the letter stated that based on their recommendations, they should take action on it. It's still going down to the parliamentarians for them to scrutinize that, recommendations and see if
recommendation already don't complain and already don't conclude on. Now you say and scrutinize again. How them go down?
My man, you see this apparent.
Let's look at the aspect.
These are the arms of government.
Again, allow me, Solomon. You know, civil rights activists. Let's look at the aspect of separation of power and checks and balances. So that's what we say a practical asylum by the looks of things.
So what we're saying here, now, you see, I was appealing for our constitution to review by this administration. For those areas where we have explanatory side, we need to explain them. My point here is, Samuel, you go up, you come down. If then 136 parliamentarians then be do their own due diligence with their conscience, then still for them vote against, say no. Even though the president don't say, let us tell the executive, mark you, now the other arm of government, that one the legislative arm of government. The executive have done their recommended, right? The judicial, just like you said, if they feel disenfranchised, then you can take this to court even before discussing it. But all of these points, when that document was laid in Parliament, we not see nobody, just like we Melvin say, would have grabbed and say, no, go challenge this thing in the court until the parliamentarians don't take the decision.
Which will not do now civil rights activities?
Well, you see, what we are appealing, let the parliamentarian deal with their conscience. Let them think of Sierra Leone.
No, which will not do civil rights activities?
That's the advocacy we make. And that's it, we do.
And this is our first we make receive over time. We're not being bloody for this person.
Now, save mother will no money to go ban up.
Yeah, he says,
well, that's also important. I need a joke for Sally, kind of a joke side. Say they're not show solidarity to Lara. Pass empty black and white and then the right.
No,
But I can't. No, I can't. We not see like where Pastor Mahmoud organize people there for
Ban don't talk.
Laugh guy at the big side. Okay, Samuel, President Bion letter. It was, for me, misplaced. It was an undue influence. And for me, it's unconstitutional.
So you not the president in letter and one way didn't get any constitutional backing?
They're not provision of the constitution. In fact, I challenge the lawyers, the Honor State House, with the legal advisors to the president. The constitution only mentions, say, the president, tell you for right message. Now, if you're not able or you not get anybody where it is sent for go deliver in state of the nation address, that's the only time it can do a handwriting. So that message where is sent.
So was it a waste of the time of Parliament for let the clerk be even take up that letter and give them Parliament?
No, also waste. It was a political ploy. So have an undue influence on the legislature.
The president himself is a member of Parliament.
It's a member of Parliament ceremonially.
The president is a member of Parliament.
Ceremonially. Don't understand that. The governance, he's a ceremonial member of Parliament. Now, the issue here is him writing a letter for me that now for Joshua say what he be want for let lawmakers then do now in them do. He tamper with the independence and what we call the primacy of Parliament. It doesn't like you get case in a court. You the president, you get case in a court. Then you write to the judge, say, hey, where you can get this ruling, so make sure that you use if it's in court, it will be covered.
These are separate.
Prejudice.
These are separate.
The president.
You get it.
You cannot be a spokesman for the president.
Yes.
So for me, his statement was prejudicial. It was in the case if in a court now, it was sub judice. And for me, not a bad precedent the president said so. Bad precedent because of not so like we honest command be calling them on our state house and go talk. No, that's not in writing. This is in writing. It's gonna be used. It's gonna be first be in the answers and other document the way to say president the right to parliament for tell them waiting for do. That is a wrong precedent from the president. By the way, that's the president. I wish you a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and one more time thank you for the goodies. But with all due respect, sir, that letter they write, you know, be going.
The program now sits and it comes to you live now YV television at channel 33 SF. Now we ready 101.7 FM. And similarly, so now we Facebook page YV News. Continue for dropping the question, comments, and contributions. And as we go along, we'll go through them. Mina Samuel, Ibrahim Kuroma. Now, Solomon, another important point that the fact saying. The Auditor General office, now one way, as per the Constitution, they enjoy similar protection to that of judges of the Superior Court of Judicature, as they play a critical role for uphold accountability and transparency in governance. Now, this removal now one we don't get a lot of questionable circumstances. Waiting on a feel and multiply effect we will get. More so in terms of institutions them. Where similarly the president will get one kind of oversight function on, or institution them where this office or auditor general's office gets the oversight function, because mind the constitution give and power say he even gets rights for look inside waiting the office of president they do. What if this is the multiplier effect where this go get now the institution the way the auditor general office gets oversight duty on?
Make I tell you this. You know, let me look at the institution itself. For me, in my presentation, I tell you, say the Auditor General do for prove into ministries, departments,
generally.
And in as much as we don't choose democracy for accountability and transparency, now that office day, we all the feel say they for do their work. And make we not forget, say audit or Auditor General's office.
Not to court. They are there to probe, recommend about the shortcomings of people and way they go through, you know, administrative blunder, right? And recommend to the appropriate authority and to other than then feel them for take the relevant actions against them. So in this case, that office, for me, any administration will come in governance, yeah, go must do now the precedent way President Bill, for example, any president can do. In the area of Auditor General's report, now in this administration used for set up the commissions of inquiry. Now in lead to all the other recommendations about, you know, former administrations out there work, them probing to them, you understand it? So for me, they want to say where they don't appoint them. In my own view, I always advise you, when you have been appointed, don't go there with your political acts. Go there with your professionalism and do your work, due diligence.
You see that one day in the act. You see that one day in the display by members of parliament. Say they were there as patriotic people, or there as partisan voters, or people who follow principles. You see them demonstrate and they vote in a parliament.
When that make up, tell you say even the APC parliamentarians the way dislodge that particular process they for me.
When you say dislodge, what if you say the mean?
Well, for me, when somebody will tell you say who gets them party convention, the nation can force. The nation can force issues of Sierra Leone by mandated you for idea to the for kind of parliament. But that's how we expect them all.
But the house was not well constituted on that day. Although yes, parliament can convene parliament.
Thank you. So what am I saying? This is the society. Men go sit on a band don't talk. We all don't talk. We all appeal to the conscience of the parliamentarians. Let them do their work. Let us document it. The president can write. Then a separate arm of government, the legislative arm of government. We see who side the same model who they talk about. We see who side go to parliament. When they feel say this bill of a pass, there's a legislative committee. So these are the issues we are talking about. Parliamentarians can able to do their job without the interference. Nobody will sack parliamentarians. If they go sit down say with all waiting president don't talk, no do. If they not be done, will they sack them? Will they be go and voted against for? Maybe no say no. Yeah, me no. Now they don't get it right. Then do something. When they will put in a job.
You think that parties and politicians will get a parliament?
Well, that's exactly I want to follow by later. That's why I want to deal with the office of the Auditor General. Then where they now? In as much as you are there, do your work without. I'm coming.
I'll take you back na parliament. You think that partisan?
It's partisan. Let's see
because for the Auditor General office,
yes, that is
so very clear.
Yes.
Now. Because, mind you get a lot of association of professionals that country.
Let's agree.
One of which is that we get for the auditors across the country. We don't see one way say the acts of the Auditor General and in deputy now one way them being considered say fall within the remit of the job. Now been the actual thing and do. Even Council of Chartered Accountant and say full statement. We see other bodies they the outside.
So it's a partisan.
We don't get qualified in understanding or auditing the gap and say the decision was professional misconduct. So we have people accused of them feel say that be professional misconduct because he says yes it's constitute professional misconduct.
That is what they recommended. That's
so what you recommend?
I'm coming. You see, we talk about procedural issue. My man, you are a lawyer. When you deal with law they tell you what you need for do and what you don't need for do. In this case, they tell you say the auditor with the report, third party way involved, where you don't need for do that I don't tell you say auditor also for go court. Auditor for probe.
Okay.
That is the recommendation. If you don't mean say someone not go by phone, the way for go and not requisite properly, you come back and report if there's no documents. That's the professionalism that.
So now, Melvin, I've been talk on the Auditor General's office, the oversight duty. What does this mean for institutions that we didn't get oversight duties on?
This is gonna be it go send chills down the spine of auditors that therefore be extra careful now venturing into certain offices. We mean say the free hand and the independence now can be easily questioned or mortgaged or even compromised. So that's not a good trend. Well, you ask a very good question, and that'll get to do with Auditor General equivalent to a removal equivalent to that of the judge. For me, I mean the first person will do an article, having read several provisions of the Constitution and other laws, that decision itself for use section 137 is a misnomer. What do I mean by then? You need to go use carpenter for go judge fisherman. How can you use the benchmark of judges who are appointed based on the recommendations of the Judicial and Legal Service Commission So that of the Auditor General, whose appointment is in tandem with the recommendation of the Public Service Commission. These are two commissions. So the benchmarks of them entering office cannot be used because of the fact that they have different benchmarks, different institutions, different mandates, and now you say for pool them.
Privileges, that's the privileges you should be.
Let me land. Yeah. And that was the prayer that was taken to our very good Supreme Court for clarification, which was not heeded.
That is what.
So if we are so today, the judiciary and the Supreme Court contribute.
Thank you.
So if we want to blame Parliament,
so that is the.
Now the judiciary is supposed to match the President in break. Tell them whether it was the right parameters they use for what set up the tribunal and all that. But the judiciary in this case, me before them blame me good House Parliament, I believe a lot of blame first the President and the judiciary. Because all this come off us from cabinet and the executive, later endorsed by the judiciary and now Parliament, because now they they get big. Now there are more people in the vote. So let me land.
I'll give you a case. Let me land.
Yes.
The point is the ECSL and the Attorney General's office never knew about this
topic. When they went to Supreme Court, that the ECSL said they have the right to conduct elections. The Attorney General said no, there should be no by-election any longer because we are in the district. Now the Attorney General against the ECSL. That's my point. So now the point you are making.
Who is the Attorney General representing?
You
don't have a fine example.
It's a good
the Attorney General is the principal advisor to the executive and the president.
But it means
if I don't bring this example, whether if I don't vote against them, it shows that the aspect of robust and state capture is live and visible.
That's the point I'm making.
If you get a situation wherein the president not the lost case, you get a situation wherein the executive not the lost case.
But
you get a situation wherein the judiciary endorses.
That's what we are saying. So let's try again.
That's what we are saying.
So I think he lost the question.
Yeah, it was the obstruct. So my point there is, if we want to look at the consequences of this from a governance perspective, of course, accountability and transparency will be questioned. But if it comes to the judiciary, it shows that they must up their game. If it comes to Parliament, it shows that MPs, by way of the constitutional review, for be given more latitude for votes than conscience, as it stands by the law, section 77(1)K, not allow APC MP for votes for SLPP. They're not the Ola Balo now. Yeah. So instead of look at the bigger picture now, all my one for no, we don't have 7 APC MP there. We don't see the bigger picture. Because when the bigger picture of that, the decision taken, was it in public good or public interest? So there is a diversion there. So for me, I think it all boils to the chief executive, the president himself. Now, Babatunde Awusi, one-time UN country representative, is it not so ultimately legal? Oh, we're good. Now this is like the scriptural way say all things are good, but not all things are profitable. Not so all the power where the president gets, he go use, we mean say it correct. In as much as legally it will be correct, but morally, socially, and otherwise might be incorrect.
The question,
and somebody must tell number one that.
The question here is, with the circumstances surrounding the aforesaid topic, are we as a nation building stronger institutions?
No, we are building stronger men than stronger institutions. Stronger men in the sense that if somebody sits at the executive or the presidency and is not pleased, like the best technocrat, like how long you don't serve there, you can be vacated based on parochial cronyism or whatever trivialities. So for me, this decision might, I use the word might, weaken institutionalization of public offices. It go weaken now. Other people are now, they're not going to go afraid. If me say an auditor now, they say can go audit State House.
I don't believe so.
You afraid?
I don't believe so.
If somebody when I work there, that woman don't forget so. By virtue of the vote, parliament vote, you don't lost all the benefits. So.
No, I don't believe so.
Don't forget that.
Yes, no.
There is a human face to it.
Yes, I agree.
I agree. People are involved. Let me land, my brother.
Yes.
So as it stands, on a personal, from a human rights perspective, the one who don't pull so.
And in deputy.
In deputy, in the claim saying we don't resign.
No, but the deputy said we not lost. Now something already begin lost. We don't root na yan. If we are not found and guilty, it. Because those are issues raised up.
So if you are enjoying, let's say you don't work for government for 20-25 years.
Those were bad procedures. But land, Melvin.
Yes, if me don't work for government now, where I never work for government it's in my life, for 20-25 years, I don't reach that in level. As he say, hey, but this work, if I go do and tomorrow, I go lost me work. Not only me work, lost me benefits, all what I work for. If it's a go venture.
That journey in emotion to your job. Anyway, let me come to this.
That is not emotion, that is the reality. Like I tell you, you don't want to say I work now.
You see, we behave as if...
I agree with you. The first question I ask, are we building stronger institutions? Melvin say we look to build stronger individuals rather than institutions.
We are supposed to build stronger institutions.
So
and those institutions, you ask me a question, can I land? We are supposed to build stronger institutions, and those institutions should be independent. Just like what Obama said, in Africa we don't need giants men, elephants men or lion men. We need stronger institutions with independency. So for me, let me learn. The presidency, that is it. No, that is it. Because for me, if we not support stronger institutions, like what they say, these are the individual. Let Melvin not take professionalism for be emotional. If you are there, for example, if the guy went in now, he has seen the lapses where they said, you see, governance is very difficult to operate in. That is what I've seen over the years. We don't talk about the removal of the former vice president, for which President Nkrumah former not be take the league up. Yeah, but he bring and come up. You know why? So these institutions are supposed to be independent. The Auditor General we did it now. Let me make sure see if you go probe into the presidency.
You know, answer my question.
I will answer.
You didn't waste the time.
I'm not waste time. Now you depend waste time. You know why? Now strong institutions will depend bill. How they bill them? Let the man work independently within conscience. But you don't mean say if you're not professional, you forgo say no. I don't go work. If I go, they will sack me. Do the right for
you don't mention.
Do the right for point.
You don't mention a couple of times say people who look at institution will take off them political cap.
Yes.
Is that the case in Sierra Leone? Do you think Lara been gets political cap will be well at that moment we've been served at that capacity?
Well,
in your estimation as still
you see, Bakuti not happen along the line. Nobody not perfect in human life. We don't see the 98.1 line that goes to the 98. They give some cubic about timber. At the end of the day, he go back, he correct himself. Not within a parliament, he know about that issue. So these are the mistakes of the human being. So we don't want to consider here, we begin to talk this other thing of the other side. Let's look at the aspect of we say we can mistake. But let we mistake.
So if you say that mistake now presidency office, that circumstances will be surrounded office day. Office as serious as that nature.
If you see waiting at the talk about auditing not to judge you.
Yeah, I understand.
Not for probe. Not for can you report. We say, and let me tell you, at the deal with companies, I know exactly what's at the talk. When you requisite, you understand? If you don't do the proper thing, perhaps that money could have spent in the proper way, but without reporting to the proper documentations. That's why you have the procurement unit. That's why you have people to do the proper job. Let's talk on that.
Anyway, the program now hot seats and it comes to you live now YV television. Now we Radio 101.7 FM and similar listen on our Facebook page. We go see ways for go through our messages there because I know say we don't get a couple of them and we go see ways for go through them and of course continue the conversation. But nonetheless, yes, Melvin, also something.
Samuel, in as much as the government self puts up in many ways and in areas in the movie now, I think say like waiting soon do they say Motamano to God, we can make mistakes. And for me, one big area where I get reservation on that audit is the exemption of the Freetown City Council. I particularly pick this
but
issue
I think we get explanation to say. There are a lot of explanation we get as to why the office be exempted in that process.
But if you look at the PFM Act, certain threshold amount or certain amount of money they way past the amount and they is subjected to auditing. If you look at the Audit Service Act, Freetown City Council cannot be exempted from auditing. A case study where they always give, even with the MCC compact, if you read the project implementation agreement, it tells you about joint auditing.
Yes.
For me, I not see any sense. Many times I told the people that disagree with me for learn Lara say enough for
audits.
Even Akisoya. What is good for the goose must be good for the gander. You need to go Marrah Esq State House, then you left Yvonne Akisoya na Freetown City Council. For me, that is irreconcilable because monies that are meant, monies, donor funds, many of them are meant for and on behalf of the people of Sierra Leone. Absolutely. So they should be subjected to Sierra Leonean scrutiny. Now, so we left what we say make Ebola, Corona money, half of the one that we can and then go to back.
Because the argument is, you even say no to money that they will be passed through that process, and money them in and go for that money personally. Although yes, the argument is that money go for and as a result of the office you occupy.
Of course. I think that side, Lara, I don't know who's cap you wear that side, but for me, I get reservation because you know go cherry pick, you know go be selective. If you have for audit all man. If you know audit, no audit nobody. You know go audit some and left some for whatever reasons. I think for me that was a disservice.
So do I waste time, or we agree that human beings we are reliable to mistakes?
The biggest mistake now State House they make, and they never tell you whether the receipts are now fake or not so fake.
So those are you see this is a professionalism. Melvin, audit, go you probe, do the least job you can do. If there are a list document, I make where you go, you don't just cherry pick. If you can't ask for these documents, you don't get time, you give me time for bring and come back.
But even at that, State House and Freetown City Council, we big money.
So let me say, let's not the issue they talk about.
Solomon.
That is the point.
Solomon, I don't listen keenly on the point you seem for the other side of say, procedurally, the president follow every other procedure for ensure say kick out the former Auditor General and deputy and all the rest. But again, as we try for up of this particular, edition of the Hot Seats program, what you can say with regards to the judiciary and the attempt for doing and called state capture of many other institutions? Do you see a semblance of same in all of which we talk about?
Well, if you quote or if you call the judiciary, we don't see in many cases, and it still refer you to the same way.
When you tell me many cases, it don't mean to waiting happen at ACC. Where ACC they see because they give firstly the money, then therefore go back to see Anyama 14 years back as to waiting on the happen.
You see this
does it make sense inside you? When you talk of the present,
you see when one for build up institutions, we have to look at the trends. What we don't be like what TRC recommend after the war. What TRC recommends after the war, then we miss the present, then corruption, then bad bats in the OBD then the baru waking happen for left hand. Now then sending you go back to.
Okay, so now answer the question with regards to state capture.
So the judiciary, like we they say, let we learn let we challenge them in certain cases. I mentioned earlier the Attorney General and ECSL, Melvin Samison, a government, the moderate government. If you do not take them to court, ECSL will conduct election. If will be correct, no. The question is no. Okay. So for me, let's learn to challenge the law where it's necessary. That could be my recommendations. All waiting on pass. We agree and say procedural issues come into play. Yes, we agree. Say everybody where you're not professional, where you're not any institutions, don't go there with a professional cap, but use your professionalism to do your work with fearless. Forget what say they will pull me. They when they pull you down, the public go talk. Like I take. Issue can ban talk, everybody recommend journalists right. We all see the open tribunal. So for let's do what we call due diligence in our job in any facet of the professionalism. That is my advice.
Solomon said the tribunal be open and all the rest, but now the aspects of state captured and waiting will be the aspects of the APC in terms of the conclusion of that matter itself. Were you expecting a position paper from the APC, but nonetheless? Okay.
That's another point. What they did for taking the 2021 or 2022 electoral bid to Supreme Court. Melvin was there. When it was interpreted.
State capture is real. For me, I will spend energy as the year at the end for talk to the chief executive of the country that if he fasten the constitutional and all the power he gets, he might, unfortunately, that's not my wish for him, follow the footsteps of Ernest Bai Koroma. President, you not forget. Now, so many people have the Allah, Hosanna, more time, world best. So let me tell Ernest Koroma. But when power changed hands, some members will think in your party and rank and file force and then come out and begin to say, he was a dictator, he was an autocrat, and all that. And me, I'm very worried that the president, although we don't say now they continue and the was on, but looking at the latest resolution where they say they don't go get now SLPP executive meeting that nobody no right to campaign, just answer your question. Now, in fact, we have gone beyond state capture. Now we are at the level of personality capture of state capture.
That's not the judiciary, that's SLPP.
Okay.
I'm not talking about the judiciary, I'm talking about the personality of the presidency, capturing not only his party, capturing not only state institutions, capturing by virtue of constitutional powers, all what he wants to capture. By the end of the day, the end will justify the means. And he's not going to be in power forever. Let him look at an Esquoma who is now in exile and borrow a leaf from some of the wrongs he committed in this nation.
Thank you so very much, Melvin Tijanman Sari and Seth Solomon Sondu. I appreciate for getting to this evening. You know, most definitely. So you get 30 seconds, Solomon, and then Melvin will take a final bite and we'll wrap up. 30 seconds.
Yes,
just 15 seconds.
Yes, Fambul, I want to take this opportunity for talk to all our Salon people who don't come into Christmas and we go for 2025. Do you allow we left them bad games and they from we all, Mr. President. The laws are so many, the executive powers, but please let our constitution be reviewed under your administration before you leave you leave seats. Do ya at the talk to Salon people now enjoy the Christmas and let we enter into 2025 with unity, peace, and stand against bad people that we want for Brincan, batting the Nasarali.
Okay, thank you so very much. Melvin, quickly.
Well, since that Christmas, we know it's a month for the season of rejoicing. Many people hardship, poverty, the money. So Bokuman in celebration get question mark. So they beg the one that we get, help the poor and the needy. And Yusuf, we na needy, always appreciate God for your life. Not so you know the worst case. People that know them story worst past you own. Always get courage. Life is how you make it. Every day is a holiday. Once you plan yourself. And my final word, Sierra Leoneans, low left extravagance. Last night, if you see the beach, we the partner the beach, but we can't stand and I begin say, hey, the country it's ganga. Yes, entertain, enjoy, but cut your coat according to your size. Good. Then beach club then day, one stout, we all know in price. If not stout, you did drink. So if you don't spend from between December 24 or December 25 to January 1, you don't spend all the way you get. No say January you don't get padio.
Okay.
And the next thing they all made the corruption where the New York can start. More than first quarter it was because someone can want the gold cover all. So do ya me advice, be good to someone and also cut your coat according to your size.
Indeed. Plenty thank you to Una Solomon Sondu and that of Melvin Tijanman Sari for Una time this evening. I want to take again this opportunity for wish we lovely viewers and listeners from across the looks and kind of Sierra Leone and even the globe. A Merry Christmas and Happy New Year in advance. So even my family, I want to wish you a Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. But again, I want to talk to my company young man them. Please let me stay away from drugs. At this moment, you see many people that abuse drugs the wrong way.
No mixture.
Particularly so mixture. The ladies, now the young girls, most of them, they into ecstasy. We not give young girls ecstasy, tell you say no enjoy it, but please, minimize. Because what I can say, if you not take time the Christmas and get for Bokuna house, now house then they come out cannot get. Not to get again, now house then they come out. So please, let me minimize the use of drugs and all the rest. If you get away, abstain from. But if you not get, we minimize the manner at which you utilize them. But nonetheless, have yourself a wonderful day. Me and your host, Samuel Ibrahim Koma. And this, not the Hot Seats program. Bye-bye.